Okay, so in this part we are going to have a look at the save and the load function of these new chests here. And basically it's very easy to create these two functions because we can take some functionality from the inventory and copy paste it and then just modify it a little. So if you open up your inventory script and if you find the save function, here we go, here's load inventory and here is save inventory. If you take the save inventory first and copy it, and you go to the chest script and you paste it somewhere here, and then just make it public void instead of virtual. And if we go to the inventory again and take the load inventory function and copy that one and paste it inside the chest script underneath here, then we can modify them a little so that they fit our needs instead of the inventory's needs. So if we go to the save function first of all we need to check if the inventory is open, or actually let's wait with that, we can demonstrate later how it works then. So the string content here is equal to string.empty, and that's fine. Then we are going to run through for loop here, and that also fine because we're running through all slots that count. And then comes the change here, because we don't need to take that slot here and get the component, so we can delete this line actually. No, what we need to do is, instead of creating a new slot, we need to say for, actually we have the for loop up there, if all slots dot I isn't null, so if the slot we're trying to save does exist and our all slots I dot count is larger than 0. So if the slot exists here, if it exists and it has some items on it, then we need to save it. So we need to take this functionality here and copy it and paste it up here and delete this if statement. So content I plus this one plus, and then we need to delete this, and we need to write all slots dot I dot peak item dot item name. So we're going to store the item name of the item stored in that specific slot, and then we're going to say all slots I dot count to string. So the amount of items stored on that specific slot is also going to be saved, and then make a plus here after. So this line of code here should actually, we need a plus here. So this line of code here should actually store the items inside the chest when we save it. So instead of doing all that thing with creating a new slot and so on, we're simply going to use what's already in there. Down here we also need to change all this, so we can actually delete all these like this, because we're not going to store the amount of slots and rows and so on right now. We're just going to delete all these, and then we're simply going to save it. So save. So that's the save inventory part. So inside the load inventory we need to make a few more changes. First of all, we need to reinstantiate all slots. So we need to say all slots equals new list stack item script, because we're loading our inventory and we need to clear everything out that is already there. So to clear everything out, we're simply just reinstantiating it here. Then we need to make a for loop, and in this for loop we need to run as many times as our slot amount of slots, and we need to say all slots that add new stack item script. And the reason that we're doing this is because we don't want some null places inside the list. We need to add something to the list to get the correct count. So if we have 20 slots in the inventory, well, then we need to add 20 empty stacks to make sure we don't get any exceptions later. So then we're testing if our content string is empty, and if it isn't empty, then we have something to load. And how are we going to load it? Well, we're not going to use these at all. And basically we're not going to create the layout or anything. So we're simply going to split our content as we did before. I'm not going to go into details with that because we already did it earlier in another episode. Our for loop is still to keep. Split values still to keep. And our index should, instead of passing split values, we need to change this one. Because we don't have any reference to int32, so we need to right click on it, click resolve, and click using system. And if you don't have that, you can go up in top and write using system if you didn't already include it. And then we have temp is null. And let's see all these if statements here. All these are basically correct. And down here we are loading our components. We are adding our components to the loaded item. And here is where we need to change something. As you can see, all slots index get component slot. And basically we need to say all slot index dot push, and we need to push the loaded item, that item script here. And that's basically it. I think that's it. We'll see if everything works when we try to load and save it, of course. So now we need to call these load and save functions, and we do that inside our inventory manager. I actually think it was. Let's see. When I click my save button, then it goes to my inventory manager here. Okay, so we need to find the inventory manager, and in here we need to go to the save function, and then we need to say create a new one here, copy paste this one. So find game with tag sorry, chest, and just we can call that actually just give it a tag called chest instead. So we're going to create a new array that contains all the chests, because this one is only looking for inventories and we need to handle them a little differently anyway. So this is our chests, so we're going to make a for each that runs through all chests in the collection chests. Let's just call this one chest, of course. And then we're going to say chest dot save. Chest dot get component chest script, and here we're going to call save inventory. And basically we can copy this one, paste it down here in the load function, and do the same with the chests up here. And then we simply need to call load inventory instead. So basically we need to make sure that we call the chest scripts load and save function when we press the load and save button, and that's what we just did right now. So when we click these buttons here, it will find the chest, because they should be tagged as a chest here, as you can see, and it's going to call this chest script, and on that chest script we have a save function and a load function. Let's try. Pick up some items, store some here, and go over here and store these here. Okay. And then I'm going to save, and I'm going to close the game, open it again. See, then I'm going to load. I'm going to open up, and we have the items here, the wood and the iron, and over here we have nothing. Okay, so this one didn't get saved apparently, and there is actually a very good explanation for that, because now when I think about it, I actually never added the code for adding the items to the slots after we load and save, or when we reopen an inventory. Before we do that, there's also one more thing we need to do out here. If we click on the chest inventory, you'll see that it's tagged as an inventory, which means that we will try to save the inventory, but all the items are inside the chest here and not inside the chest inventory. So we need to remove this tag by clicking on the chest inventory, clicking on the tag and untag it, because we don't want to save this, we only want to save the chests, and that's why we created their own functionality for this. When you've done that, you can jump into your script, and in here there's a few things we need to change. First of all, we need to change the for loop here. It looks for chest items that count, but I just noticed before that up here we are actually using chest slots. So just to use the same stuff, we are going to change this to chest slots, and this is under the chest inventory script, all over the move items from chest. Down here I've written use slow, so you can use slot, of course. Okay, so this didn't change any functionality, it's just the fact that we want to be consistent. Up here, I just remembered that I made this comment like edit later, add items to slot, because we're not adding the items to the slot yet. So we need to make an if statement that says if items that count isn't 0. So if we have some items to put and our items that count is larger or equal to the index. So if we are inside the bounds of what this chest can contain, and our items index that count is larger than 0, and there is some items on this specific slot, then we can say new slot that get component slot add items and items index. There we go. So if all this is okay, if we're inside the bounds of the array of slots and we have some item on the slot, well, then we can simply add it to the current new slot we just want to show on the screen. So right now we are actually adding the items to the slot. Let's do this. I'm pretty sure I don't need this set active here. Let's try to remove it. And let's save and jump back into the game and run it. Let's try to put some items in here. Move over here and put an item here. And if I move back, yeah, both the items are there. And I can try to save this, close the game, open it up, load the game. We have our item, and we have our item. So now we have the items in both places. One little tweak I would like to do is whenever you load the item, they should be put into the inventory right away. Because if I do like this, run the game, and I click the load button, then the item is not shown right away. I need to do like this, close it, go back and open to see the items. So we need to add some functionality so that we can see the items right away. When I click the load button, it just pops up here. It's just a little extra feature, but it looks a little better if we can do that. And it's actually pretty easy to fix this little bug. So to fix it, we need to go into the chest script, and in here we need to add a new field that will keep track of if this inventory is active or not. And if the inventory is active, or if it's like currently open, well, then we need to update the layout right away when we press the load button. So private bool active equals false. Whenever the player enters the box, we need to set active to true when we enter the chest, and we need to copy this one on trigger enter and paste it. Then we can rename this to active false, and then we're going to call it on trigger exit instead. So whenever the player exits the box or the chest, then it's going to be inactive again, so we don't need to update it right away next time we load our inventory. Need to go all the way down here, and down here, after we have checked if our content is empty, down here we'll say if active, so if our inventory is open and our player is looking in it right at the moment, then we have to take our inventory, chest inventory dot update layout, and we have to take all the items we have in the inventory, which is called all slots, and give it that, and the rows and the slots. There we go. So we can try to save this, jump into the game, play it, and then pick up some items here. And if we place our items like this, and we go away, save our items, and rerun the game, then we can try to open it up and load it right away, and the items goes in here. So that was one little bug or little feature we fixed, but there's one more thing we need to fix, because we also want to be able to save while the inventory is open. Right now, if I run my game and open up the inventory here, let's pick up some items and put them inside, and I click the save button while the inventory is open, well, then I'm going to get an exception. And there are more reasons for that. First of all, our crafting table here is in the way because there's no chest inventory connected to it, and this script is basically not usable on our crafting bench right now. So basically you can click on the crafting bench and right click on the chest script and remove it, because we're going to get back to that later and make a fix for it so it works again. That's one thing. The other thing is inside our chest script here. We are creating all slots in the start function here, but we're never telling how large all slots is. So if we start out with saving when we have our inventory open before we have saved anything by moving array and stuff, then we are unable to run this part of the code when we save our inventory, because all slots that count here will always be 0, and we'll never get into this part of the code where we are executing the save function. So we need to make sure that we have a count on our all slots, and we can do that by taking the slots amount here and putting it inside the parentheses here. So then we are going to instantiate this with a current size of, for example, 10 or something. So if we open this up again, let's see if we have some more exceptions we need to fix. Yes, and we have another exception now. So that's inside the inventory manager 288. And that exception has something to do with the way we are saving something right now. Because right now our let's find it, chest inventory here is a type of inventory, which means we're trying to save it the old-fashioned way as well. So when we are trying to save the content of the chest with our own save functions, well, then inside our chest inventory here, because it inherits from inventory, then these functions here for saving are called and loading are called, and we don't want them to be called on the chest inventory anymore, because we're not using those save and load functions. So to make sure that those two functions from the inventory doesn't interfere with our functionality, then we need to go to our chest inventory, go all the way to the bottom here, and write public override load inventory and public override save inventory. So this is not the ideal way of doing it if we had planned how we would structure our game from the get-go, but this is the easiest way to make sure that we are not calling the save and the load function inside the inventory for the chest inventory script. So now the chest inventory won't try to save itself and give us an exception, I think, because we are using, as we did before, the chest scripts save inventory and load inventory function. So these two functions are the one we want to use, and we don't want to use these functions, so that's why we don't call the base, because the inventory here will try to save some stuff that doesn't exist. Hope it makes sense. So let's try one more time. Pick up these items, put the chest here, save. We still get an exception. Maybe I actually forgot to save. Let's try again. We still getting the exception. Okay, let's see what's wrong here. Okay, so it's trying to call save inventory on everything with a chest script on it, and this is where we get the exception. So let's see what else has the chest script on it. So this one has a chest script on it and everything is fine, and this one doesn't, everything is fine. This one doesn't. Okay, so our crafting bench here is still tagged as a chest, and that's why it's trying to find the chest script on the chest at the same time as we're trying to save, but it doesn't have the chest script on it, so this is giving out an exception as well. So we just click on this and untag it for now, and then let's try one more time to see if this fixed it. Pick up items, go to the inventory, save, no exception at all. See if we can run the game and load. And we got our items back here, so I can keep dropping them out and loading them now. And I should be able to go over here and place an item here as well. Save this, rerun the game, and then there should be items in both inventories now. 5 here and 1 over here, please. Yeah, there we go. So now we can save these. So the last thing we need to do before we round up this part of the tutorial is to recreate our crafting bench very fast. The last fix is very simple. We simply need to add a tag, and we need to add a new script, and that's it. We need to click on the crafting bench inside in the scene, so the crafting here, add, and then add tag. We're going to create a tag called crafting bench. So that's our tag. Then we click on the crafting again, select the tag, and then we have to go to our chest crafting bench here, and we need to add a new script to it. Sorry, the crafting bench in our scene here. We need to add a new script to it. So right click in your script folder, C# script, and call it crafting bench script. And then you drag the crafting bench scripts onto crafting bench inside the box here inside your scene, and then you open up the script, and basically the only thing you have to do in the script is to add public inventory crafting bench, and then you save, and then you jump back into Unity. And in here you go to the crafting bench area here, and you drag the crafting bench UI from under the canvas onto this empty slot here. So the crafting bench you're seeing on your screen, you're dragging that onto the empty slot on the crafting bench inside the actual game, the crafting a bench box here. When you've done that, we need to go to our player. And inside our player we need to find somewhere here inside the onTrigger enter, we need to make an if statement that says if other.tag equals craft bench. Then we need to say helper text dot get dot game object set active true to make sure that we show the text when we enter the craft bench, so we can see we can press a key. And then we need to say chest equals other.get component crafting script craft bench script dot crafting bench. And then we save that, and inside the onTrigger exit here, we're simply gonna add or other.gameObject.tag equals crafting bench. There we go. So let's just see if I call it craft bench or crafting bench. Let's see, crafting bench. Okay, so we need to make sure that we are writing the right tag here. It's called crafting bench, so I copy this one and paste it up here so that we have the correct name. If we don't have the correct name, it's not going to work out. So let's give it a try. Go to the crafting bench. We click E to open it. Let's see if we can craft something from it. Yeah, and we were able to craft it. And if I go away, it goes back into everything. So everything should be working now with the crafting bench. One other thing, a very important thing, when you're saving more chests at the time, remember that the chests can't have the same name, because then they're going override each other. It always looks for the name of the chest every time it needs to save a new instance of the chest. So one chest should be chest 1 and the other one should be chest 2 and so on. So I think that's it for this part of the tutorial. If you find any bugs or anything that doesn't really work or some extra features you want, then please don't hesitate to write me in the comments or write me a private message or throw me an email or something, because it's very much appreciated when you test out all this stuff and you write me about the different bugs and mistakes there is in the program. As usual, if you bought the script already, just re-download it, and the full commented version of this project here will also be available to you. And if you're supporting me by being a patron, then just go to the Patreon page and re-download the project. Then these files will also be included for you. Anyway, thank you very much for watching.